Hello, Kaylee, William, and Michaela again. This video is to show you what we did the very last part of class, continuing with our work with fact fluency, except now we shifted our focus from addition to multiplication. And you have an article that you have been given, hopefully, with your materials from Monday's class, called 3 Steps to Mastering Multiplication Facts, if you would get that out at this time. I would also like for you to remember, as we're going through these videos, to pause when necessary, to actually try to engage in some of the things that I'm talking about. That's going to help you experience it, and if you actually get to experience it and do it, you're more likely to make more sense of it and remember it, okay? So, before we dug into this article, I asked everyone in the class to take a post-it note and respond to the following question. What does it mean to know from memory? When thinking about our standards, they call for us, or for kids, to know certain facts from memory. To know from memory is the phrase that's used in our standards. So my question to our class was, what does this mean to you? What does this mean to you, to know from memory, when you think about like knowing your multiplication facts? And so everyone recorded their thoughts as far as how they would answer that question. And I encourage you to pause now and either think about or actually record how you would answer that question, like record it on a piece of scratch paper. So this is a good time to pause. Go ahead and do that. Then I asked the class another question before reading this article. I asked them, what multiplication facts do you consider to be foundational facts? So you might pause now and think about that. As you think about multiplication facts, which facts do you consider to be foundational facts? In our class, I had the kids just turn and talk to their partner about what they considered foundational facts. And then I kind of heard from the group, and our group said doubles, or times 2s, times 5s, times 10s. So our 2s, our 5s, our 10s. Someone mentioned 0, so times 0, times 1. And then someone even mentioned the squared numbers, like 6 times 6, 5 times 5, 4 times 4, 8 times 8, those. So then we actually took about 7 to 8 minutes to read this article. And 2 purposes for reading this article. 2 things to pay attention to. How does this article define what it means to know from memory? And also, how does the article define, or what does the article consider, foundational facts? And how does that play into fluency and mastering our multiplication facts? So at this time, we went ahead, we took some time to just sit back, read the article as much as we could get through in about 8 minutes, maybe 9. And so I'll encourage you right now, pause, go ahead and read this article to yourself. Then, when you come back to the video, and what we did in class is I said, okay, now go back to your answer to the question, what does it mean to know from memory? And I asked the kids to take what they learned in the article, compare it to their answer to that question, and actually revise their answer to that question based on what they gained, the knowledge gained from what the article said it means to know from memory. And then we heard a few definitions that the class came up with after the revision. And then we also compared our initial thoughts about what facts we consider to be foundational to actually what was found in the article. From here, we looked at our multiplication fact strategy book. So you have a multiplication fact strategy book. It doesn't have a pink cover, and I'm sorry, I forgot what color your cover is of your multiplication fact strategy book. Maybe blue or something, but it's a black bound book, has a bright cardstock cover, and it's laid out in the same way as the addition subtraction fact strategy book that we looked at in the previous little YouTube video that you guys viewed. But this book is for the multiplication fact strategies. This slide just shows you the sequence of the strategies. And if you actually turn to page 6 in your multiplication fact strategy book, you will see the strategies listed, and this is the order they are listed in the book. So it starts with doubles, goes to 5s, 0s and 1s, 10s, 9s, square numbers, double, double again, double plus one more set, half then double, and then adding one more set. If you turn to any section of this book for a particular strategy, for instance, maybe let's turn to I'm going to turn to like maybe double and double again, page 66. Okay, turn to page 66, pause if you need to. You'll see every strategy in this book has a section for that strategy, and it has a lesson devoted to it. So it starts typically with a problem in context. This one gives you a couple problems to choose from. One about treats coming in bags of 8. There are 4 bags. How many treats are there? And then another one about Mark is at the game room and has put his last $6 into a token machine. Okay? So it has us kind of start with a problem in context, lets kids think about that, share their strategies for solving it, and then it gets into teaching the fact activity. Okay? But there's always an activity to hopefully let them see the strategy in the most concrete way or even a pictorial way. And then if you turn the page like on 67, you're going to see a couple, and every fact strategy is going to have like 2 to 3 practice fact activities. So typically it's like a game format. So time for them to practice these strategies so that they can own these strategies, meaning when they're faced with problems, and if it's a problem that lends itself to a particular strategy, they would choose to use that strategy rather than counting on their fingers. We talked about how we have kids that count on their fingers, even in middle school, and definitely in our intermediate grades in elementary school. And, you know, it is not the most efficient strategy. Unfortunately, for those kids, that is the only strategy that they've had enough time with, that they own, that they can pull from, that's in their tool belt. They may have been introduced to other strategies, like the ones you see on the screen, but unfortunately, these kids have not been given enough time to practice and use these strategies in order to own them, to actually have them in their tool belt. So introducing the strategy is great, but the most important thing is giving kids ample time to practice the strategy so that they can truly own it and apply it when they're faced with different problems. And these are especially useful for our mental math expectations in our Common Core, that kids are expected to use mental math to solve problems involving addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. If they only have one strategy, then that one strategy is probably not going to suffice as an efficient strategy for all types of problems. So something to think about. Okay, we kind of had a quick reflection on the night, everything we covered. What do you feel like, man, you've got it, you know it, you understand it? What's something you still need support with? What's something you're looking forward to? And then thinking about next week for Monday, March 13th, you have an Operations and Algebraic Thinking lesson plan due. Your Chapter 11 reflections are now due, kind of a week off. So Chapter 11, if you've already done that, you're ahead now, but you need to read and reflect on Chapter 11. And Veronica will present next week on Chapter 11. And then if you have time, you might scan over your next learning progression, which is number and base 10 progression, because we're getting ready to dig into place value for the next 2 or 3 weeks during class. And so we'll be hitting a lot on our number and base 10 progression. as it relates to place value. Okay, email Jennifer or myself if you have any questions, especially with your lesson plan that's coming up. And Miss Kaylee, if you haven't already, I'm going to send you a third link to an instructional routine you might want to think about using as you write your first lesson plan. All right, can't wait to see you guys next week. Goodbye.